SciStarter, Science We Can Do Together, speaks with Jon Froehlich, creator of Project Sidewalk. All right. Hi, Jon. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's such a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so sidewalks, it doesn't sound like that interesting a topic. You
Yeah.
might say it sounds rather pedestrian.
Ah,
Yeah, I know you haven't heard that before.
no, I
So
actually haven't. That's great.
why are you interested in sidewalks?
I would say, while from a distance, maybe sidewalks aren't that interesting, they're actually the lifeblood of cities.
Mhm.
They connect us to each other, they connect us to transit, they connect us to businesses. And interestingly, they fundamentally intersect many of great societal interests from, environmental sustainability and for sustainable transit, all the way to equity. And what does it mean to design an equitable city that allows us to move about the world in a free way? And so there's human rights, there's local commerce and recreation. Think of all the ways in which sidewalk sort of supports the vibrancy of a city. So that's sort of
Yeah.
what attracts me to it.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't have to think about it, then you're very lucky because
Yeah.
it's working well. But for a lot of people, I guess it can be a barrier. You're pushing something and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can't get this where it needs to go. And that's a
Yeah.
rare thing for me, but probably not a rare thing for others.
Right. I mean, for people who are in wheelchairs, fundamentally,
Yeah.
they have to navigate barriers constantly. But I think we can all think of circumstances in which we are pulling luggage, or we're on a bike, or perhaps we're pushing a stroller, and we've been impacted by poorly designed sidewalks.
Hmm.
So there are two real things that go on here. One is people design sidewalks to be impassable. And that's just a fundamental design issue. And that's really a responsibility of urban designers and planners and things. But we, in historical issues, like we design sidewalks without curb ramps or curb cuts. Those are the things that happen at the intersections that allow us to freely move, on our bikes, luggage, wheelchairs, and so on. So there are design issues, but then there are also maintenance issues, right? As weather and other things degrade our sidewalks over time and make them impassable. So those are the two things that can really, really affect us and affect travel, as I said, and human mobility.
Okay, and then how does Project Sidewalk figure in this?
Ah, yes. Well, it turns out, like many things, we need data. We need good data to make data-driven decisions, to have analytics about where sidewalks exist, but not just what's called sidewalk networks, sort of node networks of where sidewalks are in cities. And that's how like tools like Google Maps will work with roads. They route you by creating a graph data structure and figuring out the easiest way or the fastest way to get your car from A to B. But we don't really have those sorts of tools for sidewalks and for pedestrians. And that's because we don't have good data on sidewalk networks. We don't know how sidewalks are connected, where there are crosswalks, where there are pedestrian signals and things like that. The other thing, so that's sidewalk networks. That's where sidewalks exist. The other thing we don't have information on is the condition of those sidewalks. How good are they? How wide are they? What kind of barriers might exist, right? And so those are the two things, the location of sidewalks and the condition of sidewalks, that are essential to improving how we can analyze cities and create tools that allow us to, prioritize mobility that's non-motorized. So that's what Project Sidewalk does. It's fundamentally about data collection. And we kind of had this observation 10 years ago now. Wow, there's this growing set of streetscape imagery, panoramic imagery in a tool called Google Street View that we could use to analyze urban geography in new sorts of ways. We could also pair that perhaps with satellite imagery and other sort of traditional means of looking at the world. But we've primarily been using streetscape imagery. It's called panoramic imagery. If you've used Google Street View, you've seen it. And we've built a tool that allows people to virtually immerse themselves. So sort of go into a city and evaluate sidewalks by kind of, it's almost like a first-person video game if you've ever played those kinds of games. We give you missions. We tell you exactly kind of how to assess sidewalks. And then there's various kinds of tools where you can rate the severity of sidewalk barriers. You can find them. You can validate other people's labels. There's leaderboards. There's badges. It's actually a pretty fun thing to do. But then we use that data and we work with our partners to figure out, well, what is the condition of sidewalks like in these neighborhoods? And how do they compare to other neighborhoods? And maybe what are some correlations to the socioeconomics of these various neighborhoods? Are there areas that haven't changed very much over time to help improve human mobility? So those are the sorts of things that Project Sidewalk supports.
Huh. Okay, so how do I get started? Do I do it through Google Street Map, or do I do it through your website app, or how is it?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, you would go to projectsidewalk.org, and we're in 10 cities right now. So we work with community advocates, either walkability advocates or disability advocates, as well as local governments. And basically you go to projectsidewalk.org, you can click on Start Exploring, and the first mission is actually an interactive tutorial. So like if you've ever downloaded an app on your phone, these days we don't read manuals. The apps try to sort of train you into the app as you're using it. And we do the same thing with Project Sidewalk. So you will train you both on how to use the tool as well as how to assess the built environment for accessibility.
Huh. Okay. And so how long has this been going on? Do you already have results, or is it just starting?
Yeah, great question. So we kind of started with an NSF grant and an Google Faculty Research Award back in 2012, actually, if you can believe it. So I guess this is our 10th year. Yeah. And we've kind of grown organically since then. We are now in 10 cities, as I mentioned. We've had maybe 12,000 users. We have over 750,000 geolocated labels on sidewalks. It's the biggest data set that we're aware of on sidewalk condition estimates across 3 different countries. We've been working with partners in Mexico recently and looking at kind of culturally and geographically how these sidewalks differ from U.S. cities. And then as you've seen behind me, I'm showing a picture of Amsterdam, and we've been working with partners in the city of Amsterdam. So directly partnering with the city government there. As I said to you before we started recording, Amsterdam is a tremendously sort of walkable and bikeable city, but it turns out it has a lot of cobblestones. It has some areas that lack curb ramps that actually affect people with different kinds of mobility levels. So people in wheelchairs or walkers or other things.
So this is used, it's really 2 parts, right? So cities can use it to do planning, to figure out what needs fixing or improvements. And then you have research goals too, right? Where you're looking at trying to answer different questions. What's that like?
Yeah, exactly. So, and it kind of depends on the needs of our communities, and we're sort of fundamentally driven by those questions. But I'd say there's kind of 2 parts to the research. One is on the urban design side, like where are sidewalks and how are they changing and how are they not? And that's sort of a sociological question as well as an urban design one. But I'm actually a computer scientist, and so I'm also interested in ways of combining crowdsourcing. This is called crowdsourcing, where you use users to kind of come in. Well, your podcast is well aware of this, sort of in a citizen science way, right? To allow people who might have minimal training in a domain to actually give you usable information. But then our backend is also your labels, your work is being used to train a machine learning model. And that's really where we get scale. Now, of course, machine learning is imperfect. So we need lots of training data. And now, like I said, we have 750,000 labels. So we're using that in our backend to train our machine learning model so we can do semi-automatic assessments of the built environment for accessibility.
Huh. Okay, so now this has been going on for 10 years. You've got a lot of data. Where is it going? Do you need lots more citizen scientists to join, or are you already drowning in data?
No. We need more. We could never get enough data. No, really, our vision is, look, we have to prioritize sidewalks in the same way that we have streets. Why can't we open up Google Maps and see lots of information about the routability of pedestrian pathways that gives me information on accessibility barriers, and I can maybe even input my mobility level or that I'm a wheelchair user and get an adequate route. We, sort of demand this, and we need good data for that. So I think we're not done until we've developed ways of analyzing all the sidewalks in the world. So I would say we need another 10 years for that at least.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to make sure that we share?
Well, I would encourage folks, if you're interested in sidewalks and human mobility, human rights, to check out our website, projectsidewalk.org, or you could check us out on Twitter as well. And we provide information resources there. And we're always looking for new cities and new partners. So please do reach out.
Great. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you, Bob, for having us.